Okay, this is the outline of today's lecture, and we'll be dealing with multiple things like application, material transfer, process planning, then application of robotics in assembly operations, then robot cell designing, and then multiple robots, machine interfaces, and all the aspects related with AI that would include intelligence, okay, task planning, etc., future application, and some challenges. So first thing is like which and all departments does this robotics have been occupied is basically mechanical, electrical, and computer science engineering. So mechanical aspects would be like it deals with the machinery, especially the CNC machines or maybe automated machines, where robotic application is very crucial. And this mechanical engineering would study only the structural aspects of the robot. Okay, non controlling aspects, non what do you say, intelligent aspects of the thing. Mechanical engineering would not study upon much. Okay. Second thing is electrical engineering, where it deals with the controlling part, intelligence, and this is like the brain. And mechanical engineering would give a body of the robot. And then the last one is the computer engineering. It deals with the movement. Okay, it controls the intelligence ultimately. So all these things are integrated together form a multidisciplinary domain where the robotics is actually designed. Any typical robot is designed. Okay, then how these robots are being classified. Robots are classified based on multiple things. Okay, the very first thing is the simplex robot. Okay, these are some automatic machines. They do not contain any complex circuitry, and they are developed just to extend the human potential. For example, you might have seen the very first level or the first stage of washing machine, where you have two drums. One drum is for washing, other drum is for drying. You might have seen it. Okay, it might be at your childhood. These are very simplex machines where the intelligence level will be very low or very nominal, and they are just developed to extend a human potential. Okay, just example, non-automated robots. Okay, you have non-fully automated robots. Okay, so these robots have a lesser intelligence. At the same time, they don't contain much effective stuff. Okay, the second level of robots would be they are programmed, but they are not capable of reprogramming. Okay, they contain some sensors which can perform multiple tasks, but these tasks are very simple in nature. Okay, these are not very complex tasks. Best example for this is your fully automated washing machine. Okay, the next level of the thing is complex level robots. These robots are programmed and reprogrammed as well, just like the one what you have seen in robotics lab. We have a reprogrammable capability, and you can teach it. Okay, you can teach it, so it can learn on itself or by some different teaching method. Okay, so they always contain a complex model. Okay, it might contain a controller and a teach pendant sort of arrangement. Okay, and most of the robots are taught based on the requirement. For example, for a welding purpose, so if you need a particular pattern, okay, if you need some particular shape or size, okay, so it is being taught to the robot, and then it is executed. After execution only we'll understand how it is been working. Okay, there are some validation procedures for the execution thing. Okay, so after once you teach it, so it is just like your exam. So we'll be teaching you all the time, and then at the end of the semester you will be writing an exam to understand how much or to know what is your understanding from your learning. So it is ultimately like that. So we validate based on certain procedure. All the complex level robots are validated with a particular validation protocol. Okay, so application of robotics in garment industry. I have taken a case study of sewing. Okay, what is the purpose of sewing? Any idea, guys? Please respond. See, you are sewing two or more elements together. What is the purpose of it? Any idea? Saying Divya, your voice is not audible. Divya Priya. Any idea? Nirja?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So
What's the
basically, it's to form a complete garment, right? So we need to sew two or more parts to form a finished product.
okay? So, but
So attached to pieces or for decorative purpose,
okay, not essentially for decorative purpose. It's like
but
to hold.
mainly to attach.
Okay, okay. Any other answers? Divya Priya was talking, but I don't know. Yeah. Any other answers? Sukesh, what is the purpose of like stitching or sewing together?
Even I have the same answer to form a garment, to
Okay.
join two or more components.
Okay. Can I consider this in mechanical aspects like it is a joint? Okay. It is a joining procedure, but it is not. Is it a temporary joint or a permanent joint? In case of garment industry, sewing is basically a permanent joint. Okay, you are sewing two products together or two fabrics together with a similar quality or maybe different quality or maybe different thing. Okay, all these procedures where sewing takes place is basically to join. At the same time, it is creating a permanent joint. Okay, so there are a lot of parameters associated with sewing, for example like the tensile strength, okay, or how better is your sewing, and then it depends upon what quality of thread you are using and what is the distance between two stitches, and how firmly they are stitched. Okay, there are a lot of other parameters as well. Okay, so in garment industry, when you are making or when you are sewing two products together, okay, what is happening is, just a second, what's happening is it's basically a joint. Okay, it is creating some seam. What do you mean by seam? The place where you get a joint. Okay, you can see when two stitches are there, when two things, okay, maybe on your shoulder, if you consider the shirt, on the shoulder part or maybe near the cuffs, okay, or maybe at the central part of the shirt, you can see some seam. Okay, seam means what? Where the joint has been formed. Okay, so generally what we consider is for 2D structure, your shirt is basically a 2D structure. We are considering the thickness of the shirt very nominal. Okay, your shirt thickness would last like maybe 1 mm or not more than 1 mm. Okay, or in certain cases 2 to 3 mm if it is a woolen or maybe like thick clothes. So this is called as a simple joint or a 2D joint. Okay, when you are dealing with the 3D, your procedure or the structure would look something like this. Okay, structure would look something like this, right? This part, I'm talking about this part. Just a second. Okay, the structure would look this way. Okay, right? Can you tell an example of 3D stitching where you require a 3D stitch? Or 3D sewing? Yeah. All your hand embroidery or the embroidery machines, what do they make? They make 3D structures. Okay, for example a flower will have some horizontal movement, some vertical movement, I mean the vertical length or a horizontal length. At the same time you have some elevation, right? You have some elevation of the thing. Okay, so certain stitches like this, okay, certain stitches like this are also possible, but the percentage, if you just consider the percentage, 90% of the fabric or maybe a sewing industry require only 2D stitches, just like your shirts or any typical garment stitching, but only 10% have this particular type of stitching, that is the 3D stitching. Okay, so some special applications like you take a landers, okay, solar or maybe any planetary landers, they have some typical shooting systems while returning to earth. Okay, parachute sort of arrangement, it's called as shooting system. So they drop it on based on the air velocity. Okay, so systems like that require some 3D stitches, okay, in order to maintain a particular pattern of the chute or maybe the umbrella sort of arrangement. Okay, so both in 3D and 2D stitching, you basically require a typical high-end application or a quicker application where it can generate multiple stitches in a span of like certain level. Okay, so just have a look. A computer controlled technology for sewing process. Okay, this I would consider this to be a robot because it has intelligence, it does the task without any human intervention. And what contents it got is basically it got a sewing head, it got a portal. Okay, I'll tell you what is a portal. Sewing head is basically your complete stitching machine or the sewing machine that is attached as a simple thing. Okay, you have a simple thing which is capable of moving in X, that is this direction, in Y, in this direction. At the same time, in this case, we have a Z movement. Okay, we have a Z movement for lowering and then making it up. Okay, we have a third direction also which is not mentioned here. Okay, but basic movement is basically in X and Y directions, right? The next one, okay, it got a portal. What is this portal is? This portal is capable of making this sewing head, okay, capable of moving this sewing head to a different place. Okay, to a different place. That means you got a table, you got a working table. Working table will have some fixture. Okay, what is this fixture? See, on while you are sewing garments, okay, there will be a leg which will be placed on the fabric in order to hold its position and making the sewing process easy. Okay, similarly here, instead of that leg we have what do you say, a workpiece holding device. Okay, a workpiece holding device. This, once you fit the content, okay, once you fit the thing in the workpiece holding device, what it will do is it will hold the whole garment that is required for stitching, and then it will allow the garment like a kind of, it will stretch and it will hold. Okay, it will stretch and hold the garment suitable for stitching. Okay, so this sewing head is completely computer controlled. What do you mean by computer control or computer numerical control? Guys, please answer. What do you mean by a numerical control? What do you mean by numerics? Numbers basically, isn't it? Numerics is basically numbers. Any answers?
So works by commands.
Works by commands. Yes. Then
Sir, everything is feeded first and then no human intervention in the process.
no. I'm talking about what is a numerical control. What do you understand by numerical control?
So the commands or numbers or something.
Commands
So
with
it's
numbers.
a number or
Yeah,
letters.
commands with numbers, exactly the correct answer. See, why commands with numbers is you got an x-axial movement, y-axial movement and z-axial movement. Okay, this is y, this is x and this is z, right? We got three axial movements. So let us say if I am starting with 0, 0, 0, what does this mean? This is x, this is y and this is z. If I make 1, 5, 7, what does that mean? let us say all the dimensions are in centimeters or millimeters. What does this mean? This means that the x-axis, it got 1 mm displacement or 1 centimeter displacement, y-axis 5 centimeters, z-axis 7 centimeters displacement. So all these things are axial movements, so numbers are required. Okay, so hence the name numerical control. You got a numerical control. So your computer is capable of giving this head, this swing head, commands associated with linear movements. Okay, a combination of linear and what you call non-linear movements. Okay, to the thing in order to get the swing head position change. Hence the name numerical control. Okay, so this whole setup is interfaced with your PC. Okay, interface with your PC. What is the purpose of this interfaces? Okay, this interface will allow the head to move in a particular direction. So you are basically programming the head. You are basically programming the head in order to make it work. Okay, according to the required thing. Okay, so lot of codes associated with a numerical head movement are being programmed, dumped using a interface. What kind of interface is this? Nowadays lot of interfaces came into existence. It might be an Ethernet port, just like you plug in to your PC, or a USB. Nowadays that's very popular. And as the technology has advanced, okay, nowadays a wireless control, that is through Wi-Fi or any typical wireless control, has been developed. Okay, so you definitely require an interface for this. Without interface these machines will not work, or without interface also these things will work, but you require a standard program. That is dumped into the memory of the controller of this particular machine, right? Okay, what are all the contents of your swing heads? Okay, so this is for ornamental seam. Can you tell where do you apply ornamental seams? You might have studied in your maybe a fabric technology or something like that. Did you? Have you guys studied about something called as ornamental seam?
No, sir.
Okay, so on your car seats, what is the typical fabric that you employ for what do you say, maybe the outer line of your car seat, or maybe the complete seat? What kind of fabric you use? What is the fabric type? No idea. Have you heard something about Rexine? Guys, are you there?
So no, sir.
Rexine fabric you have not studied at all. You have not, seen at all.
No, sir.
Okay. So it's a kind of fabric. You don't have the fabric technology or some subject like this?
So we had, but we haven't heard about that particular fabric.
Okay, I'm asking about, it's a synthetic fabric basically. Okay, it's a synthetic fabric which is a combination of rubber and some typical material. Okay, it is more flexible and it is very durable. All your sofa sets, your car seatings, okay, and any other decorative things like chairs and all are being made with Rexine cover. Advantages: it is soft, okay, and it will not create any pressure while seating, and at the same time it will give a good cushioning effect. But the problem with this Rexine material is it is subjected to a quick tear and wear. Okay, it is subjected to quick tear and wear, but durability will be there. Okay, but tearing is possible when sharp edges, something like that, will impact those areas. So the biggest problem is, since it is a rubberish material, it has a very fine texture, that is, it is very smooth. The outer layer will be very smooth. Okay, while you are seating, what you feel is you feel more comfortable if the surface is very smooth. But at the same time, in a car like thing, okay, it is more it's a moving thing. So whenever some sudden brakes happens, what happens is, you rather than when a person is sitting, when a sudden reduction of momentum, what happens is the person will tend to slide on the seat. Okay, he will try to actually what do you call, the condition is you will try to slide and you might fall off. Okay, so in order to avoid that, there are certain seam patterns that are created nowadays. It's been very popular in almost all cars. The upcoming new models, they have this sort of seaming effect. This seaming effect will not only give you an ornamental look, that means the aesthetic look, but also it provides some friction. Okay, because of this honeycomb like structure, the frictional effect will be uniformly distributed. Okay, so certain things like this, okay, certain things like this has to be made by only sewing process. Okay, that 3D look will be obtained when you are stitching it with a honeycomb pattern. Okay, for that, every program, the programs whatever been made by the CNC expert will be executed by a CNC sewing head. It got some pneumatic inputs, okay, for linear and for typical curvature movements, okay, which is controlled by a CNC head screw. Okay, then you have a work holding device. You can clearly visualize the work holding device here. Okay, in the work holding device, what will happen is, you have a clamping type of arrangement. You can see these black clamps, okay, are used to clamp the position. All these black clamps, these are screw operated with a handle on it. Okay, so there might be like plenty of clamps in order to make the fabric at its position. Okay, this edges depends upon, this whole edge depends upon what kind of pattern of your typical fabric you are using. Okay, this is applicable where the process is more repetitive in nature. Okay, here you can see the honeycomb structure is more repetitive. Okay, you have to execute the same honeycomb for multiple times. Okay, so you vary the position, but the needle position will not be, needle pattern, okay, the needle movement pattern will not be changed. Okay, so like this, multiple products can be produced. Only the time that is wasted here, or maybe time that is consumed a lot here, is while clamping. Okay, so automated clamping devices has come. This is a mechanical clamp. Automated clamping devices has come into the market. Okay, so you just have to insert the fabric and automatically it will clamp. Okay, next thing is a sewing cell. A sewing cell. Here you have a robot that is that will have gripper, a typical gripper, which is capable of holding a fabric. Sir, how could a fabric can be held by a gripper? Any doubt? Fabric is more like it will bend, right? Grippers are capable of holding a rigid objects, right? Am I correct? Fabric is non-rigid object. It will try to deform or it will try to shape out when it is being held vertically or maybe horizontally. Am I correct? Except for few fabrics. Okay, it depends upon the thickness basically, right? Cotton fabric is one such where it gets deformed very quickly, and silk as well. But how these robots are handling such a kind of what do you say, fabrics? Okay, have you heard about the term stiffening? What do you understand by stiffening of clothes? What is stiffening? What is the purpose of stiffening? Any idea? Have you heard about a product called as Revive? Hello.
Yes, sir.
Ah,
People
what's the
use
purpose?
starch to stiffen the fabric.
That is the starch stiffener. Okay, Can you tell few stiffening techniques? How many kinds of stiffening techniques are there? Permanent and temporary, right? Permanent stiffening will long last. Okay. Temporary stiffening, when you are making the clothes, okay, if you soak the clothes in hot water or maybe any typical water, the stiffener will get detached from the clothing. Hope this thing you have studied in your fabric technology, right? So a temporary stiffening is made in order to make the fabric stiff. That means it is capable of being handled by robot or any typical gripper, and the movement of the cloth or the movement of the fabric is controlled by an industrial robot. Okay, since the task is very repetitive. So this is the gripping end which is holding the fabric in its position. This is a conventional sewing machine, any conventional sewing machine with some add-ons. Okay, on off control, maybe stiffness control of the thread, that is the tensile control of the thread, as well as other parameters are controlled by a CNC machine. Okay, but this is more or less like a conventional sewing machine. The movement of the cloth is being controlled by this robot. Okay, I'll show a video of this. Okay, so before going to that, before going to that, I'll show you some videos where this typical robotic application has been there. Just have a look of this. Is the screen visible, guys?
Yes, sir.
So the movement is being controlled by the robot, but the stiffness will not last long. Okay, so stiffness is a temporary condition there, right? Right. The next topic is material transfer and unloading. But before going to that topic, we'll take a short break for 5 to 10 minutes. Is that fine?
Okay, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
We'll take a short break.
Okay, sir.
Okay, sir.
నీళ్ళు ఆన్ చేసి పెడతావు ఎక్కువసేపు కరెక్ట్ తర్వాత ఇది చేసుకోవచ్చు కదా చండాలంగా
నన్ను ఏమంటావు మాస్టర్, లేకపోతే నేను ఇంటికి పోతాను. లేకపోతే ఈ బాత్రూమ్ వాళ్ళకి పోమంటే అమ్మాయి అని పోదు. ఎక్కడ ఆపిదాన్ని పట్టుకొని నేను పట్టుకొని ఇంకో ఇల్లు ముందు అటు మొత్తం కింద పడిపోయింది. నెక్కి అది నెక్కింది.
Yeah, can we start? Okay. So the next topic is like what is this material transfer and machine loading and unloading systems. Okay, so we have two levels of material transfer system, which is more associated with what do you call the systems that are present for handling such kind of activities, like for example assembly and all those things, or maybe sewing, assembly, and then packing, etc. So what do you understand by a material transfer system? We have already discussed a bit on the material transfer system. What is the functional part of a material transferring system? Any idea? What is the need for material transferring system? Shubham? Sukesh? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, please. What is the need for material transferring system, especially in apparel industry?
Sir, so in apparel industry, there are lots of different processes. For
Mhm.
example, from cutting to sewing. So, material transformation system helps the process flow smoothly.
Hmm?
It goes smoothly.
Okay, so these are supporting systems where it helps for process flow. You are exactly correct. Okay, so right from the raw material to the finished product, at every stage you have multiple operations to be performed. Okay, maybe cutting and then segregation, then sewing, then finishing operations. Okay, like maybe button sewing and all those things, right? So at every operation the material transfer system will play a crucial role. It will limit the time, okay, it will reduce the time, and at the same time it will create an ease of use. Okay, so for example, you take an apparel which is of size 10 or maybe size 50 or maybe 40. So if it has been started in the, I mean, if it is started its production phase, okay, what happens is you have the raw material selection, then cutting according to the dimensions what 40 size have. At the same time, segregating it plays a very crucial role, because in a factory layout you have multiple types of products that are being produced, right, or multiple types of garments that are being assembled. So while you're doing such activity, this material handling system will play a crucial role. Okay, first thing is, if you just have a look, you have just a second, you have a set of manufacturing process. Can you name a few of manufacturing process that for example fabric industry or maybe an apparel industry have? You have cutting, you have raw material selection, cutting, then sewing, then finishing operation. Okay, at the last stage it is packing, right? So packing is a non-manufacturing operation. No machines are actually involved, or maybe certain machines are involved which are used for only packing. Okay, no typical manufacturing process. It is only a final, or maybe what do you call, stacking, or maybe some process like that. So you have a manufacturing systems, like all typical manufacturing systems like sewing, cutting, all those things, and at every stage you require to identify what is the kind of material that you have to handle. Okay, in most of the cases it is cloth. Okay, in apparel industry in most of the cases it is cloth. And apart from cloth, what are all the other things that are supposed to be handled in bulk? Apart from clothing, what is the thing that you require in bulk? Maybe a buttons. Okay, buttons or something, or maybe some typical add-ons like zips, etc. So these are supposed to be handled by your material handling system or material transfer system. Okay, so for transferring the clothes, the simple process is a conveyor belt. For handling buttons and all, they have to be stacked. Okay, they have to be stacked. So at every stage you require some qualitative inspection. Okay, qualitative inspection. What do you mean by this? qualitative inspection means what? Right, for example, a bunch of clothes that are kept on a conveyor belt, a bunch, okay, it is not supposed to be. Okay, that's a qualitative factor. So one after the other, so that at every entry point, each operator might take one particular piece, not a bulk of pieces. Okay, that's a sequential flow. So there, the qualitative thing is one after the other, or maybe a cascaded thing. Now, all these things are supported by a manufacturing system that is at the enterprise level. That's what I was discussing. So it is completely at the enterprise level. Okay, at the enterprise level also there might be one more qualitative inspection that might be there. Okay, maybe the stitch quality, or maybe the button placement. Okay, maybe the length and other parameters, the tolerance, acceptable limits. Okay, all these things becomes a secondary quality inspection. The primary quality inspection is the positioning of the clothing or maybe the apparel. At the same time, apart from this, as an add-on, you have qualitative inspection like the stitch quality, any damage in the products while stitching, or all those things are like checked. So in factory layout, all the manufacturing process requires material transfer. Okay, so what are all the kinds of material transfer that you have seen till now? Material transfer techniques, we have already discussed a lot in the very first and second units, a few, but we'll go through. So these are divided into two things. One is a non-powered system, other one is a powered system. Okay, non-powered system would be like your hand trucks, small hand trucks, then dolly, 4-wheel dolly, or maybe a 2-wheel dolly also exists, then pull lever type of forklift, then pallet. Pallet is not exclusively used for material transfer, but it is for stacking. Okay, so why pallets are only used for stacking? In order to avoid the contact of floor. Okay, there might be some physical damage that might happen to the stacked products. First thing is your hand truck, second one is your dolly and your hand operated forklift, the third one is your pallet. Okay, so pallets are not basically used for material transfer, they are used only for stacking. So only the three things are there. The next one is a powered thing. Powered devices would be what? You have a walkie truck. Okay, walkie truck is more or less like your powered forklift, more like it looks like a hand operated forklift only. Then the second one is a tow tractor. Okay, a tow tractor is basically a small tractor sort of arrangement where you have a set of trailers that are attached to it. The third one is you might have seen it in most of the industries for bulk transfer. You have your forklift. Okay, you have your forklift. So these are some powered devices, right? Apart from this, these are material handling units. Okay, powered and non-powered devices are material handling units. Apart from these, you have another things like automatically operated stuff, which is a guided vehicle. What is the advantage of having what is a guided vehicle? First of all, what is the biggest advantage of it? It's a self-powered device. Okay, it has 4 wheels or maybe 3 wheels depending upon the type of guide, and this automated guided vehicles will actually are intended to transfer bulk of materials which are placed on a pallet or maybe a few stacked objects. Okay, from one location, from storage location to the plant, or maybe from plant to the storage location, and vice versa, like both the cases. These are supposed to be operated on a flat floor. Okay, on a flat floor these are supposed to be operated. These are operated based on a guided paths called as what? A guide wires. Okay, generally they are called as guide wires or guide paths. Okay, so on bottom of this vehicle or automated guided vehicle, okay, so you have a sensory arrangement. Basically it could be an IR sensor or maybe a magnetic coil, okay, which will pick up the signals from this guided wire. What signals it will pick up? It will pick up just a magnetic signals, so that they will understand this is the path. I mean, the guided vehicle will understand this is the path. it got a built-in controller to control the movement of wheels, to control the movement of the position, to transfer this data, whatever the movement of the the wheels, okay, the position, etc. All these things are transferred to a central hub. To a central hub, all the things are being transferred, okay, in order to control, or maybe in order to control a group of automated guided vehicles. How many of you have seen this in physical factory? Maybe during your industrial visit or something? Hello?
No, sir.
No.
Not seen, sir.
We haven't
Okay.
seen it, sir, but
Do you know what is that? Okay.
yes, sir, we know.
So in Indian market, the utilization of these automated guided vehicles are very less. Only few industries are there. They use this automated guided vehicles. But these automated guided vehicles are these have its own advantages and disadvantages. If some obstacle or if something is present on the guide wire, it will not move. Okay, it will hold its position because it will create an impact, and thereby it will make the whole stack to fall off from its top. Okay, from its top, it might. This is the biggest problem. If there is any slippery surface, okay, the wheels will go out balanced, thereby the position of your AGV will not be there. So it is not applicable for industries where there are huge amount of oil spills, etc. are there, or maybe any liquid spills are there, because that will create a non-friction surface, thereby the position will not be controlled. Okay, at the same time, you should keep the guide path clean and clear for the movement of the vehicle. Okay, so I think there are a lot of companies like Amazon for transferring, any logistics company which has a huge movement, okay, like UPC, all these things will have these guided vehicles in their facilities in order to make the inflow and outflow. That means the inward things are there and outward things are there. For dispatch and all these things are very much used. Okay, so there are some advantages and disadvantages of it. It requires a standalone controller. Okay, so standalone controller is required, so controller will monitor the whole stuff. Okay, any other doubts till now?
No, sir.
Okay, then we'll continue with the next thing, which is conveyor systems. Okay, so these conveyor systems, there are certain advantages with the conveyor systems. Can you name a few advantages with the conveyor systems, if you have any idea? Any idea with the conveyor systems? Okay, conveyor systems are used where when you require the material movement in between two machinery, or maybe multiple machinery, or maybe throughout the plant. Okay, so there are a lot of variants of conveyor systems. The very first one is a roller operated. Here these are used to just slide, but they don't have any power wheels. Even in the skate wheel type of a conveyor belt system, you have only, so it is attached along with this roller operated conveyor belt system. Okay, roller operated conveyor belt system, where at the end of this, so this typical thing will be present only at the end of this, where the movement will be like this. So this is like, it is a kind of velocity reducer. It is used as a velocity reducer. For example, an object is moving with certain velocity, so it has reached the end of the process, maybe in the packing section. So at the end of the typical arrangement is there, a roller operated or maybe a skate wheel operated. In certain cases it is spherical ball operated. Okay, a spherical ball operated. So what is the purpose is, it will reduce the velocity just by sliding on it. It won't have any function. It is only for smoother operation. Okay, large packets can be moved on this. It is not weight dependent. Okay, So it is designed only for certain tons. Okay, it can manage up to certain tons. And the next one, C, which is a roller operated thing. It got a flat belt, and it got two or multiple rollers. Okay, fundamentally you have one driver roller which is attached with a motor, okay, using a pulley mechanism. So this driver roller is directly attached with a motor. You have a motor here, and the velocity is controlled by a controller. So you have a controller for controlling the motor's velocity, thereby controlling the loop velocity. We call it as loop velocity. Okay, on bottom of this you got a support slider. Okay, you got a support slider. These support sliders are, in most of the cases, these are flat stainless steel beds. Okay, flat stainless steel beds. It acts for two purposes. One is, it will not allow the rubberized, it's the loop, okay, the rubberized loop to bend or to create a curve, okay, which will reduce the velocity, and thereby wear and tear will happen. So it will support that. At the same time, it will give a flat movement, okay, a flat movement, so the objects will not get spilled out. And you, on the other end, you have an idler roller, which is basically a free end roller, which is connected with multiple bearings, or maybe a single or a double bearing on both the sides for smoother operation. The next one is a cart tow. Okay, a tow cart, where your complete cart system, okay, your complete cart system will be towed. It will be just hooked with a pin. Okay, it is hooked with a pin for handling its position. Basically it's a cart. Okay, it's a fundamental cart, and you have a pin system for locking this cart for easier movement. There will be a tow line. Okay, this tow line is basically a chain driven or maybe a hook driven. Okay, hook driven means you have multiple chain slots where it is controlled by a computerized motor control. Okay, so it can handle up to like certain tons. Okay, less than a ton weight it can bear. Okay, so when you are handling multiple boxes or maybe multiple packets, so in that case this can be used. So the next one is an I-beam type of thing, where instead of moving on a flat floor, okay, or maybe moving on the floor or moving above the floor, it will be hanged from top of the roof. Okay, so that the objects, whatever that is being hanged, it will move in a easier fashion. Okay, so all these vertically suspended things, just like your bottles, okay, they are carrying systems for easier objects like bottles, which can be driven very quickly through pneumatic supply, which is air. Okay, air pressurized flow. Then you have certain hooks. Okay, certain hooks where you can, in the chain type of thing, certain hooks are placed where you can handle the objects. Okay, so all these typical systems are used for material transfer. Okay, this one is for material handling, this is for material transfer. Okay, so let us move on to the next thing, a good application where robots can be used for welding and painting operation. Okay, can you name why it is very essential to have a robot in welding and painting operation? Need for robots in welding and painting operation. Any idea? Spray painting, basically. While welding, what is the output of the weld? Basically, not except the finished product. Apart from the finished product, you have some certain byproducts. What is that?
So, and when we do welding, so we get all these sparks that fall. So,
Okay,
it
heat
could
is
be
developed, sparks are generated, then
but I don't know about the painting one.
no, you're correct. While welding, lot of sparks are generated, lot of heat is generated.
Yes, so
Lot of
even like
smoke.
humans, they normally wear like
Ah,
face shields and eye masks.
yeah. So that is for electrode welding. Okay, that is for electrode welding. There are different types of welds. Okay, so especially these electrode welds are very dangerous. There will be a lot of smoke that is generated, which is poisonous. Okay, these are some certain byproducts of the weld. When a human is doing this job, what happens? He is always subjected to inhale those poisonous gases, right? So while doing this, he might lose his health. Okay, so in order to avoid that, robots are implemented. Similarly, in painting, in especially spray painting, there will be a lot of aerosols that are created. Okay, because the paint thing is basically liquefied paint is basically converted into an aerosol by a pressure jet. So these aerosols are very nano levels, okay, or maybe micro levels. If you inhale them, again that's a problem. Okay, so painting is also a dangerous thing if you are not handling properly. So these are two core areas where you can apply the robots, because these are majorly required in the market. These are majorly required in the market. Okay, so apart from that, you just take a nuclear reactor. Handling nuclear fuel is also a tough task. Okay, lot of safety is required in order to handle the nuclear elements. Okay, because they create a lot of problems, like might be a cancer or something. Okay, there are a lot of radiation is also there, which creates a further damages, maybe a tumors or maybe a mutations in the body. So in order to avoid that also, we have to go with robots, where it is applied everywhere where safety is a primary concern, right? So these typical processes requires a robot, which is basically a SCARA. What do you mean by SCARA? SCARA. SCARA. What is SCARA? It's a selective compliance articulated robot assembly. We have studied this in the very first class, the classifications of the robot, SCARA, isn't it? Okay, so these SCARA robots are applied wherever you require multiple degrees of motion, at least 6. Okay, so the major 3 degrees of movement are controlled by the major 3 axes, and the minor 3 axes are basically for wrist control, just like your human hand, roll, pitch and yaw. 3 axes it can move. So robots like this are used for multiple operations, where the whole robot is kept on rails. 2 rails are there. It could be a monorail system also, but 2 rails are preferred for stability. Okay, so the whole robot is kept on a rail system, and it is powered with essential things. Okay, and cables are being suspended, and the linear movement of the robot is controlled by a rail control mechanism. So you have a smart thing where it got some 4 wheels, 2 on either sides. On the top of this you have the robot base. Okay, the robot base is connected like this. So the whole system is motorized. Okay, it's an electrical control, so you require 4 motors in this case. These 4 motors are controlled by a control system, and this control system is being monitored by your PC, right, personal computer, and the robot is kept on top of it. Okay, where it moves accordingly. So you have multiple fixture, as I said in the ornamental seams. I have given you a fixture that is for clothing fixture. Similarly, when you are handling metals, okay, it has to be fixed in order to create a weld joint. Okay, so that fixtures will be there at multiple levels. Okay, so it is serving 2 fixtures. One is a welding, other one is maybe a typical weld pattern. The patterns might be changing. This is weld thing 1, where the fixture is there. It is a basically work object holding device, and the second one you have one more fixture here. So the linear movement is possible in between these 2 things. In certain cases, some safety barriers are kept between multiple fixtures in order to avoid the contact of the sparks and other things with the second fixture. So this is the best example. Okay, here if you just replace this particular head with a painting head, okay, with a spray painting head, what happens? You can use it for spray painting operation. In spray painting operation, the whole robot is covered. Whole robot is covered or isolated from the painting environment, because there is a probability of painting deposition on the robot itself. Okay, so let us see some more interesting videos. visualize the screen?
Yes.
So in this robot, it's a machine vision operated robot where the individual components are fed to the robot after cutting using a video processing method. So it will automatically allocate the object and it will go to that particular location. It will stitch out that particular fabric. So this robot name is called as Lowry. Fabric 1 is placed. Stitch pattern 1. So it's been passing through multiple phases. Okay, so only the raw materials are being fed to the robot and automatically it is generating a typical required apparel. So this is basically a 3D stitching. Okay, it is used for composite manufacturing. Okay, so you have resin sort of materials or maybe a complete artificial fabric, okay, which is used for different applications. Okay, let us have a look. What is a 3D stitching concept? This robot is actually an upside down mounted robot. Okay, in the previous example I was telling about the rails. Okay, so these are the rails. On bottom of this you have a robot mounting head. It's a KUKA robot with 6 axial movement. So each head, okay, it got a head here, that is called as a stitching head. Okay, this mode is called as reorienting. So these are called as the whole stitching unit. The whole stitching unit is attached with the robot. Okay, here you can modify just like your gripper. So you have a gripper modification, right? You have seen in robotics lab. So the same thing, it can modify the whole setup. That is, your whole stitching head is modified. You can take the robot is capable of taking one more stitching head. Okay, for different size of the thread, or maybe like it's a different stitching head. Okay. This head is called as a blind stitch head. Okay, it's a different type of head which is used for 3D stitching. What kind of stitching needle is this? The needle type, can anybody tell? You can have a look at the needle. What kind of needle head is this, or what kind of needle is this? Guys, are you there? What kind of needle type is this? That's an angular needle. It's not like your regular linear needle. It's an angular needle. See here, the head got detached. Okay, these are different heads for different purposes. Stitching heads. Here, this is a vertical needle head. Just have a look. This type of head is called a stuffing head. this head is used for cutting operation. So this is a scanner head where you can scan the profile of any material. So these are certain applications where you can implement robotics into the apparel industry, especially for sewing operation. Okay, so these are certain advancements that are happened these days, where KUKA is actually leading and ABB after that. So coming to the robotic work cells. Okay, what do you understand by robotic cell is? See, robotic cell is you are planning to implement robotics into your conventional operations. Okay, so for that you have to follow certain things. Okay, the things would include the very first one. You have to take a survey on certain things. The very first thing is you have to be very familiarized with the technology. That means your technological aspects that where you implement. For example, in the previous example, they are using for nanofiber sheets. Okay, so you have to be very well advanced with the with the condition of your fabric. For example, if you are using a silk fabric, so if I am applying a robotics there, what parameters should I consider? Thickness, okay, texture, okay, dexterity, all these things you have to consider. Second thing is you have to take a survey on identical potential application. What do you mean by potential application? Potential application is where the human process will become more tough. Okay, that's the potential application where you apply the robot, and hence the purpose is fulfilled. Second one, the third one is selection of an application. The application in this case, what I will be selecting is the sewing operation. Sewing operation is more hectic. Okay, it requires a lot of manpower. The next one is selection of the robot. Which robot should I select? Selection of the robot itself is a huge ocean. So it depends upon how you select a robot. The selection of a robot would include number of axes, precision, repeatability, and then apart from that, cost, okay, availability, serviceability, market availability, okay, and there are certain aspects like you can actually make the robot to work for later stages also, right? That is also there. Next one is economic analysis. Economic analysis will deal like the money aspects and capital authorization. Capital authorization is, for example, if I am installing this robot today, what would be the time where I can recover the all amount? Okay, that is called as the economic part of the robotic application into your apparel industry, right? Next one is what kind of layouts that are there, that are present in a robot work cell. The first one is robot centered layout. Second one is inline work cell robot. The third one is mobile work cell. Last one is more useful because this is not a fixed work cell. Okay, these things you
excuse me, sir.
Yeah,
Sir, are you screen sharing, because we can't see anything?
it has already been shared. Okay, so the next one is how you make out this robot centered work cell. Okay, there are three types, as I said: robot centered work cell, inline robot, and a mobile work cell. robot centered work cell will have a fixed center of work cell, and it is capable of utilizing the robot maximum because multiple machines it can serve. And the method of work part delivery would be through conveyor belts, pallets, and then it can serve more than one machine. Okay, it can serve more than one machine. So this is about the cell layout. So you have a robot at the center, you have an incoming material and outgoing material. So it will serve the machines, okay, with the incoming material. Once the machines are done with the manufacturing part or maybe the process part, it will take out from the machine and then it will just dump it onto the outgoing material. Both the incoming and outgoing are being controlled by a conveyor belt system. The flow will be controlled by conveyor belt system. So inline robot work cell. Inline robot work cell is the work parts will be moving continuously. Okay, your conveyor belt will support the movement. So whatever the parts that are being transferred, okay, will be served by the robots themselves. So robots will be machines here, right? The next one is in this case the biggest advantage. Okay, the biggest qualitative advantage is the robot. The robot itself is the machine. Okay. Then here multiple operations, for example welding and painting can be done in one go, or welding and maybe other things like maybe cutting can be done in one go. Cutting, welding can be done in one go. And how does the transportation happens in an inline work cell is, there are three types of transfer system. One is intermittent transfer, continuous transfer and non-synchronized transfer. You can see this application where the car body is being manufactured by the robot, okay, where it is an inline work cell. That means your car will be the car body will be continuously moving. Ultimately I have to do something on the robot. Okay, so in this case there are three types of transfers. As I said, the very first one is intermittent transfer. Intermittent means what? In between. Okay, in between, if the robot is transferring something, so that's called as intermittent transfer. The second one is a continuous transfer. Continuous transfer is the conveyor belt system will continuously moving, and ultimately your robots will be served, okay, inline. You here the primary factor is the velocities has to be matched. Okay, the velocities of the robot and the velocities of the the conveyor belt has to be matched. Okay, in non-synchronous the biggest advantage is you need not to worry about the velocities. So this is how the intermittent transfer would look like. In this, your work parts will be continuously moving. Okay, it's basically a start-stop motion from one station to another station. This process is called as a continuous transfer, since all the parts, okay, that are moving will be continuously moving. There won't be any stoppage. Okay, only robots will be synced. Okay, so the biggest advantage is that your parts are registered in a fixed position. I mean, on the conveyor belt itself, your work parts are registered. That means they are fixed. Okay, there won't be any movement. Okay, but they will be carried away by the conveyor belt system. Okay, so the next one is just a second, continuous transfer system. Okay, continuous transfer system, you don't have any fixture. Okay, just pick and place or maybe reorienting works are happened. Okay, so these have not much significance in the manufacturing part, but it has only a tracking. Only this is used for tracking. Okay, for example, the buttons will be under continuous transfer system, so you can continuously feed the buttons if the machine is working. So the next one is this is how your continuous transfer system with the span of tracking window will be there. So your robot will move along a continuous system. but only the serving region, only this part. Okay, the serving region only will be a limited part. Last one is a non-synchronous transfer system. This is a kind of power and free system, okay, where each independent mass parts, okay, or any typical object will move according to their desired orientation or work. Okay, so this is only applicable where the finished products are being given. Okay, just a second.
సరే అక్కడ పెడితే నేను మధ్యాహ్నంలో పెడతా ఆమెకంటే నేను ఆర్డర్ కన్ఫర్మ్ చేస్తున్నాను. పోస్టులు పెట్టి ఇంటి పక్కన అన్నవన్నీ చూపిస్తారు పోస్టులు. సరే
I think there might be a power fluctuation because it's raining heavily here. Okay, so let us move on to the mobile workstation. In this example, I have already told you that you have a mobile workstation where it is kept on a track. This mobile workstation, on top of it your robot is mounted on rails, where you have multiple machines that are being served. Okay, so the best example for this application is welding, as I said. Okay, welding, where you can weld multiple parts using the weld type. Okay, so if you are planning to change the gripper, in between you have the mounts, what I have shown you just now in the previous video for stitching and all. So that is also possible. Okay, so the biggest advantage of this is that your robot can serve more than multiple machines because it is mobile structure, and this robot movement is precisely controlled by a rail mount. There is a one platform. Okay, I have told you that rail mount control system itself is responsible for whole thing. Okay, and what is the drawback of this? Any idea? What is the biggest drawback of this? Since the robot is serving multiple things, okay, so the biggest drawback is that your robot, while moving it wastes a lot of time. Okay, the wastage of time will be there. Okay, so this time can be avoided by a precise control or a quicker rail mount control system. Okay, it will take hardly in terms of seconds to move from one part to another part. Okay, so this type of work cell is employed where you have a single robot for multiple purposes, right? So the best example for this is a kind of on ground mount. Okay, this is a floor mount. You have one more mount called as overhead mount. These overhead mounts, when you are using, okay, the biggest advantage is that you have the floor space which is left out, okay, without any problem, okay, without any problem your floor space is left out, okay. So the input conveyor belt will feed the material to it, and the machine 1 it will serve the machine 1 and machine 2, and the output conveyor will take away the finished products, okay. This is how the layout will be. And the transport mechanism for a overhead mounting system will be through an input conveyor belt system, okay. So input conveyor belt system, it is not like your regular conveyor belt system, it is at an elevation, okay. The elevation for this will be there, okay. So the next one is it will have the optimum number of stations to serve, okay. How this problem can be sorted out? See the movement of the rail system, the overhead rail system will decide what kind of typical thing will be present, what kind of typical movement will be present. For example, if it is limited for 10 meters, so in 10 meters how many machines it can fit or it can serve really matters. So that is the optimum number of machines it can serve, okay. Because of it is serving multiple machines, there will be always a machine overlays or interlace, okay. What is this overlays and interlace problem? Machine overlays is whenever the robot is serving machine 1, if the machine 2 finishes off the product meanwhile, that is called as machine interlace. That means one machine it is being served, other machine has finished, so the other machine will stay idle, okay. So machine interlace will happen in case of such kind of robots, okay. In most of the robots that are serving multiple stations will have machine interlace, okay. So this problem can be avoided by programming the robot without any delays, with nominal delays, okay. So what is this machine interference? So when it is serving multiple robots, there is a problem called as machine interference, okay. So machine interference is something like, it is divided into two. First one is physical interference of the robot. If two or more robots are serving, this example you can have a look. So here multiple robots are serving one particular finished product, okay. So this product is actually placed at one location, or it might be moving along the conveyor belt system, or maybe a typical material movement system, where each robot is interacting with the robot, another robot, okay. So each and every robot should have an idea like what is the position of all the robots, because if it is not there, there will be a collision, okay. So that problem will be there in case of a machine interference, okay. Physical interference is the distance between two robots. If one work volume, okay, you just have a look of this, this is the total work volume of the robot. If you are placing one more robot within the work volume of another robot, there will be a high chance of collision, right. That collision can be avoided by limiting the work cell and its or limiting the robots what do you call the complete work volume, okay. So limiting the complete work volume and then keeping the robot beside the work volume, okay, maybe adjacent to the work volume but not overlapping work volumes should be there, okay. So non-overlapping work volumes only, this physical interference of the robots can be avoided. At the same time, robots coordinates, okay, one robot is moving with certain velocity at some coordinates, so the other robot should have the complete action, okay. So considering design aspects in the work cell, we have lot of considerations. The first one is modification to the equipment. What modifications you have to make with the equipment, that's a primary consideration. For example, if you are planning a shield, okay, for welding applications you are planning for a shield, that is an application dependent modification. The second one is part and positioning, okay, part and positioning also there is a issue. Then next one is protecting the robot from its environment. In painting application you have this problem, okay, you have to protect the whole robot from the painting mist, okay. The third one is part identification problem. If you are applying the robot for part identification, okay, so the biggest advantage is it has its own area of inspection. So whatever the parts that comes only under the area of inspection are inspected, rest of the parts might be recycled, or maybe entered into the the conveyor belt system for identification. The fourth one is protect the robots, that's already been discussed. Utilities. What do you mean by utility? Utilities would include electrical supply, pneumatic supply, or maybe a hydraulic supply. All these three things which are majorly used in industry should be supplied to the robot. For example, in the previous video we have seen a lot of pneumatic lines. Those pneumatic lines are for handling both sewing operation as well as the maybe cutting operation, or maybe the movement of the robot itself. Okay, so utilities are required when you are planning to make the robot, okay, to work in a particular environment. Okay, so most of the cases it is pneumatic or hydraulic. Hydraulics are used for heavy weights, and electrical systems or electrical supply or maybe a pneumatic supply is used when you want to make it for shorter applications like sewing and all. It is very required to have a electrical or maybe a pneumatic supply. And at the end of the day, it is ultimately the safety. Okay, so when you are doing a work cell design, the controlling the work cell and the safety are the primary factors. So without safety it is nowhere. So primary is at the top of the triangle when you are planning to construct a work cell. So modification to other equipment. Okay, these are, as I said, other equipment that are holding nests, okay, conveyor stop and stop positions, etc. All these things are the modifications to other equipments. Part position orientation, like if you want to make a part that is capable of pick and place at a particular location, so that precise location has to be modified. I have already discussed this part. Part identification problem. Utilities, as I said, it's basically like hydraulic pressures, gas for furnaces, okay, electrical supply, etc. So fencing, barriers, and safety interrupt system. Safety interrupt system you might have seen in robotics lab. Whenever the robot is operating, if we just open the door, the whole robots will stop functioning. Okay, because somebody has intervened into the operation. So the last topic for above all these things is artificial intelligence. So what do you understand by AI, which is a very trending thing, thing? Can you tell what is an AI? Any idea? Sukesh, Praneeth?
Sir, it's basically like machines, and machine has like human intelligence inside it. So
machine is having a human
it does.
intelligence. Okay.
Yes, sir. And it can perform things without our intervention and understand and have certain logics
Okay.
which we feed into.
Okay. So artificial intelligence is it a good thing or bad thing? In your view and your perception, artificial intelligence is a good thing or a bad thing?
Sir, it is obviously both, right? Like AI makes our life easier in a lot of ways. So
Okay.
I think it's mostly good, but then excessive usage can also lead to bad.
I'm not talking about excessive usage, but it has certain limitations. I would not tell those are disadvantages. It has its own limitations. Can you tell a few limitations of AI? Any limitations of AI? Okay. So first of all, let us talk about.
Cost and maintenance.
Sorry.
Sir, maintenance and cost.
Maintenance and cost. Yeah, it is the biggest limitation. Then.
Under supervision every time.
It has to be supervised every time. Yeah, very good answer. What happens
That's
if
it,
you
sir.
don't supervise it properly? It might malfunction. Okay, so let us check about what is an AI. Okay, so I'll be dealing about all these things. So AI is basically the intelligence, which is the capacity of learning and solving problems. Okay, and with a human brain, let us say, which will think rationally and do the things rationally, perform rationally. What do you mean by rational nature? So it is basically, artificial intelligence is intelligence that is used for solving problems or any typical issue with by acting rational to it. What do you mean by rational action? So it is basically to act upon an environment like humans. What do you mean by that? Rational action.
The rational action means it has options to choose, sir. It doesn't go only with one command.
Okay, but it is in a good way. Okay, whatever action it perform, it should be rational. That means it is acting upon certain environment in a positive way, in a good way. Okay, not a bad way. So that is humans' ultimate goal. Okay, so a good human's goal. Okay, so the very first thing, it was introduced by John McCarthy in 1958. He has actually framed the complete thing. Okay, 1956 he has introduced the stuff, and unfortunately he is no more. And there were initial tests that happened in 1950 to give some intelligence to machines to think. Okay, but it was not very successful. But John McCarthy has given some intelligence to machines, and he has proved that machines also can think and perform. So he is known as the father of AI. Let us look for certain AI aspects. So it can analyze satellite images to identify areas which have highest poverty level. Yes, possible. That's a positive side. And it is applied in aviation. It is applied in education. Okay, and a lot of fields are there where AI can be applied. Okay, healthcare units. It can identify what is the probability of a person getting a heart disease, or what is the probability of a person getting a kind of disease. Okay, what is his health condition? What medicines can be used for what kind of health condition? And in automobile industry, it has been used extensively for making the. You can have a look of the figure. It is used for making a lot of products within a given particular span of time. Now you can see a lot of automobiles are releasing day to day, so that is because you have an AI involved there. And finance, it will tell you like give you the market analysis, when will be the gold prices increases, so that you can invest something into the gold, or maybe whenever the prices gets down, you invest and get more profits. Okay, so you can make a portfolio out of that, and then you can manage your financial part. Then AI has its own goals. The first one is it should be capable of deducting. Okay, deduction means reducing the problem. Okay, and it will give it will find out a reason out of the problem, and then it will solve the problem. Ultimately, that is the first goal: deduce, resolve, and solve. Okay, deduce, reason, what is the reason, and it should solve. Okay, and for doing that, you require a knowledge presentation. What is this knowledge presentation? It is a machine capable of making work assumption. What is work assumption? For example, you take an entity, or for example, you want to install a robot, or maybe you want to install a good quality sewing machine in your plant, let us say. So you will first think about the need, the demand. Then after demand, what is the price? Okay, first thing most of us would look is price. And what is the features of it? Next one will go with the features, how many features it got. Then you do a market study, which companies are manufacturing this particular type of sewing machines. You find lot, like maybe Singer, maybe Usha, maybe like you take a lot of things. Okay, SKG, a lot of industrial machines. Okay, so ultimately what you do is you study a market part of it, and then you start working with whether it is available within a price tag of required price tag. Okay, if the required price tag has been reached, okay, what you will do is you will ultimately find out with the suitability. Okay, the suitable thing, whether it is applicable or not for your need. Okay, then followed by what else you would do? You would go with the next one, which is where should I install? So all these things would constitute a knowledge representation, right? A knowledge representation of whatever you need. and how it is achieved and how what is the availability, cost, etc. Next one is planning. So for doing all these things you require a classical planning. What is this classical planning is? You will think, okay, how many days it will be delivered. If it is delivered today, what is the installation time? Okay, that's planning. So it is possible only with multiple agents. Multiple agents means multiple inputs. Okay, the important task is, out of doing all these things you will learn. What you will learn? You will learn like, okay, for example, this machine is like this, it is available with this, so maybe after certain time the machine cost will go down. Okay, maybe a festive season is coming, so there might be a reduction in prices, so you will think like that. Okay, that is what the learning. Okay, so out of this learning, in learning there are two things. One is a supervised learning, other one is unsupervised learning. Supervised learning is you have a proper plan, proper execution, and you learn things out of it, is called as supervised learning. Just like that, if you are just learning all the things, that is called as unsupervised learning. Okay, now we are teaching you in order to give you some knowledge upon these robotics and all, that is called as a supervised learning. A person or a professional who already knows the concepts of this robotics is teaching you, that's a supervised learning. Okay, the next one is unsupervised learning, which does not require any expertise. You are just googling it and learning it, that's an unsupervised learning. Okay, difference between supervised and unsupervised learning is, supervised learning is well planned, but unsupervised learning is not planned. Okay, it's a random thing. And the next two things is NLP. NLP is like natural language processing. Okay, ability to understand what humans are speaking. Have you been known like a robot which is having most AI and which got a citizenship in Saudi? You might remember the robot name, Sophia. Sophia is the robot which got a citizenship, the very first robot who got a citizenship in Dubai. Okay, King of Dubai has given the thing. I think King of Saudi has given that, not Dubai. King of Saudi has given the citizenship to it. So it got, and goodest like what do you call, the good part of that is it can understand your words. Okay, the best thing is it understands your words, basically English. Okay, maybe some other languages. Okay, so that's the capability of language, natural language processing, because your microcontroller or microprocessor is what executing all these things. So microprocessor or microcontroller cannot understand what you are speaking, so it has to convert a text. Okay, it has to convert that into text. So text will be converted to machine understandable language. That is how the NLP happens. Okay, next one is perception. Perception is learning from the environment. It is in an environment for so long, so what factors. So for example, if somebody is in Chennai for so long, he will learn a lot of things. He perceive a lot of things. Okay, so which road is blocked, which road is under construction, all these things are known to you in your near area because you have perceived it by understanding the environment, right? Day-to-day changes in the environment, that is perception. So motion planning, if it is in robotics, it is motion and manipulation, motion planning and thing. Okay, and social intelligence. Social intelligence is human effects. Okay, whatever the human that is performing, for example, laughing, crying, all these things are emotional parts. Okay, so all these things, if a robot could give as an output, that becomes a social intelligence. So I think it's a bit overlapping. Okay, so these approaches of AI are four. One is statistical approach. Data from the past is collected and then you process it in order to get what is happening. Then symbolic approach. Only robots are involved in this, where the programming part is the symbolic approach. Next one is cognitive simulation. Cognitive simulation is by hearing, learning by hearing, learning by watching videos, learning by the environmental happenings, etc. Learning by reading a newspaper is also a cognitive simulation, cognitive approach. Then cybernetics and brain simulation. With the realistic brain, if a replica of brain, how does a brain thinks, functions, how does it thinks, what kind of reactions do brain give when something happens, is like brain simulation part. Tools for AI. So basically there are multiple tools. First one is search and optimization, which is the second level. Logic approach is the lowest level. Probabilistic approach is the next level, where the probability finding is made in probabilistic approach. Neural networks and optimization are at the top level. These are the techniques where you implement AI. So platforms for AI, there are a lot of platforms for AI, and in education, in industry, in both the cases you have AI. So some general agents with platforms, that is Apple Siri got a messaging app, that's a messaging platform, and it is Allo for Google, that is not very less. Okay, then you got a Telegram. Okay, Facebook and Telegram are integrated, and Facebook and WhatsApp are now being handled by one single firm. So Google is having its own application for messaging called as Allo. Okay, so the input for Google now is basically through voice. Apple Siri is through voice. So there is an NLP there. For Alexa also it's through voice. So these are certain platforms where it takes an NLP as a primary thing. Okay, these are general agents, and for Microsoft it is Cortana. So some applications it is used for automotive application, health, finance and economics and video gaming. All these are the major applications for AI. So what disadvantages and advantages it got? AI got its own advantages. I'll tell you what is the biggest advantages. That is, it will remove almost all errors possible that are existing in the system, maybe in a factory or maybe in an industry. It can be used for exploring the depths of an ocean. That means like depths of the ocean in the sense depths of the problem. Okay. Smartphones are the greatest example. In the 20th century, the biggest innovation that AI has evolved is through smartphones a lot, because it can understand your search. For example, if you are searching for something on Amazon, maybe Amazon will have a keep a track of all the things that are being searched, and thereby it will give you some suggestions. So that's the best example. And it got its own disadvantages also. Okay, so let us not talk much upon the disadvantages. Let us talk about the limitations more. And coming to few more advantages is it can take the time consuming tasks very easily. Okay, it can be implemented in those particular areas. AI algorithms are helping the doctors in assessing the patient's health condition. Okay, then they don't require any break or sleep, so they will work forever. Okay, so what is artificial intelligence? A devil in disguise? Like it's a quotation that most of the authors make on books. Okay, so disadvantages, it got its own disadvantages. First thing is high cost, decrease in demand for human labor, because nobody will think, everybody will become lazy. Always, like AI may be programmed to do some devastating things. Okay, in certain sci-fi movies it has been shown that AIs will evolve more devilish, okay, and devastating nature. Maybe the best example for this is here. Can you tell a few examples where AI has been shown in new movies as a devastating thing? Terminator is one movie. Yeah. Tell me.
The
Robot. Okay, Robo. The Tamil movie Robo. Okay. Then, so this can be avoided completely by doing certain ethical process. Okay, ethical process. Then, this can be limited through ethical process. Then storage and access are not as effective as human brains. That means humans can remember, that happens. Some 70-80 years old also they remember, but not all the machines. Okay, so no improvement without experience. Without experience, these things will not improve. So you have to have a continuous learning. Okay, these are some disadvantages of AI. So in this decade of like maybe 10 years from now, okay, maybe from 2030, it can have a improved speech and voice and image recognition. Okay, so you can be in a position to interact with robots through all these three things: speech, voice and text, or maybe video recognition. Lot of personal assistance will come into picture. For example, for a human brain, it will reduce the load on the human brain by having a personal assistant. Okay, almost even today on Google, everything you can make reminders. Okay, on a calendar, just like the way we have planned our meetings and all. So it is everything can be pre-planned. Okay, so you can have a personal assistant to do all these tasks. So all the machines hereafter will run autonomously. Okay, even right from trains, right from flights. Okay, nowadays even into military, into the warfare, everything the AI has entered. So it can have an eye on the targets and moving targets, especially through AI. Okay, all the combat systems like there is a helicopter called as Apache, where it has been fitted with a night vision with a range of more than 5 to 6 kilometers. So 5 to 6 kilometers range, if somebody intruders are present, it will target them without any further delay. So again, you have one more level of authorization for the instrument to start firing. So that is how the things have been evolved. There's a positive impact on the AI research to have on humanity. Maybe it requires some more time. Okay, maybe it requires a lot of time, maybe a decade time for the continuous improvement. So it is not as shown in the sci-fi movies. It is not the way it is been shown. Okay, so rivals on human intelligence will not occur because we are making AI, so we have a fullest control on AI. So some ethical issues might be there, maybe because of the hackers. Okay, there might be some ethical issues, but not fully. Okay, so these are the primary things. Okay, AI is it's like a two-edged sword. You can use to solve a program intelligently, or they pose a problem themselves. Okay, so we have to handle them very properly, else it will create a problem. Okay, so it completely depends upon how it's been created. If you're, I mean, most of the sci-fi movies shows the same. If you are created to do something good, it will create good thing. Okay, so that's all about the thing, and that's the end of your syllabus. Any doubts you got till now? Okay, try to submit your second assignment. I will post the second assignment and your major jury as quickly as possible. You finish off so that you can go for the internship. When is your internship starting from?
November 2nd, sir.
November 2nd. Okay, but before that, will you be able to do some project? You have formed the teams, right? Did you form
Yes,
teams
sir.
for your final jury?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay.